And welcome back to the TMCJ Podcast. We are now on Segment 3, the wild card segment, which we never seem to have ideas for. Until we do have ideas and they're suddenly brilliant.
Yes. I mean, we very rarely have any idea what we're doing generally, but it always ends up fairly well.
Hopefully. So this is one of the ones we really didn't have any specific ideas for. I mean, last time we took a look through Twitter, we had that very successful quiz segment that a lot of people had fun with. But this time, I think it's just going to be a free discussion. You were just... Also, I should note that in the interim, normally our kind of inter-segment bits are just like 5 minutes for us to get up, stretch, use the bathroom, or something like
bits, that. Kaiser, you're such a romantic.
This one, however, ended up being closer to 20 minutes, and we actually talked a lot about a bunch of random stuff that would have been good content for the podcast.
Yeah, probably.
That being said, you were just talking about, I presume, a game called Godhood?
Yes. Well, no, it's a state of being, Kaiser.
Yes, a state of being that I know very well.
So there's a game that's come out, I don't know when it came out, actually. I feel like it's probably pretty recent, called Godhood, which I picked up the other day, and... It seems... I kind of briefly talked about it in the second segment, where I said it's incredibly weird mechanics. It's quite complex. A bit of a learning curve to it. But basically, you create a character, a god, which is who you are, and you rule over a tribe of simplistic peoples. And then slowly you... there's different ways of indoctrinating more people into your religion.
Oh, God.
You can do it in a nice way with, like, peace, or being all about... Your ideologies being about making friends or trading. Or you can go about it with, like, war and... let's say... enjoyment or madness. And so because it was my first time playing the game, I was like, let's go with a basic one. Let's go with just war being my main ideology. Basically, I'm assuming that just means I just go and beat up the other people, and then I get more followers. Yeah, exactly, like Montezuma-esque. And I very quickly found that my grip over my tribe was very quickly getting away from me. So I went down the war tech tree, as I said, and a couple of fights in, one of my followers, my main follower, was like, "Hey, we do all this war stuff. Why don't we do, dabble in a little bit of human sacrifice, maybe?" I was like, that sounds like it might be a bit of fun. So I was like, sure, go ahead with it. And then they were like, maybe like barbarism? I'm like, maybe. And then they're suddenly talking about stuff like, what about, and hear me out here, guys, cannibalism.
What?
And so my followers are just slowly going more and more like off the deep end with just doing whatever the fuck they want.
God. The concept of the game does sound pretty interesting. I did, while you were talking about it, I glanced at it on Steam. It's actually made by... there's a game called Reus, or Rus, or not sure how you're supposed to pronounce it, but it's Reus. And it's a game that I did enjoy, kind of a casual game with a similar concept. You play as these, like, titans of, water, earth, whatever, and your whole idea is that you're helping these burgeoning human communities to, by making the ground fertile, or by making trees grow, or by making water and fish nearby their village and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it was an interesting, very simple and kind of there's a deceptive amount that you can do in the game, but apparently they're made by the same people.
Yeah, I heard Reyes was a good game. I haven't played it myself. What I kind of equate these kind of games to, because I think they are a category, really, is that the original one that I played was Black and White. I don't know if you ever played that.
I have... Wait, I think I may have. Way back in college.
Very old PC game.
Or maybe it was a follow-up to that. But I've played games in the similar... I know of Black and White.
Yeah. And you used to have like a monstrous pet as well that you kind of vaguely control with a lead. You could call down thunderstorms. You had to help your people whilst taking over the other religions, basically. That's like kind of what it reminds me of. And I'm enjoying it a great deal, but now it's getting to the point where it's like your main character, who you've been training all this time, is about to die from old age, and I'm like, oh shit, I didn't know that was a thing. And yeah, they're all like cannibals, and there's debauchery and all kinds of things, and I'm like, oh god, I've really let the reins go on this one. But yeah, it's quite an interesting game.
I like games like that. They tend to be like, that's something that I was kind of trying to I was trying to find a game that would kind of scratch that particular itch, like for that kind of build an empire kind of games, but not build an empire in the sense that you do in Civilization or Age of Empires or something like that, but exactly like you're saying, sort of start off with something.
You make the people which make the buildings.
Yeah, exactly. And I may pick that game up and try it out, because it does sound really, really fun. There's a game. There's a couple games that have played with that whole generation aspect of it too, where your old characters die and then you have to play as their descendants or children's or successors.
Rogue Legacy?
No, that's not the one I was thinking of. So
Okay.
there's two games that jump to mind. One is actually a JRPG called the Agarist Wars. I think there's multiple games. Juan actually turned me onto these games. Essentially, it's a JRPG, and you play through as this one character, and depending on the choices and things you do in the games, they were out for the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3. So that, to give you an idea how old they are. Playing through, depending on what you do in the game, your character ends up being involved in one or another political faction, and eventually, at the end, I think that your character ends up getting hitched and betrothed to like one or another of the other characters in the game, and then you think the game's over, but then now it's like 10 years or 20 years later, and you're playing as the descendants of the characters from the first part, and the story branches based on what you're doing in these different I think the original game goes through 3 generations, and depending on what you do in each generation, the story evolves and changes. That one's a little bit less like this because you're actually playing as the characters that are moving from generation to generation. But the other one I was thinking of was Medieval Dynasty. It was a game that I started playing a while back, and I need to get back to it because I was enjoying it, but I just haven't had time to play any more of it. It's a game where you're just some random Yahoo in medieval Europe at some point, and you have to basically build a life for yourself in this new village. And you build your house, you can mine and sell wares. Eventually you find like a spouse from the local village, and you have kids, and if your character dies, you end up playing as your kid. But if your character dies with no kids, the game just ends.
Yeah. I think I actually watched, Josh Let's Game It Out play a game that sounds like that.
It was recently. That. I saw it 4 days ago. He just released... I noticed it this morning when I was looking through my YouTube feed that Let's Game It Out did actually play Medieval Dynasty like 4 days ago. The game
was quite funny.
Yeah, I haven't watched his video of it. I just saw that he'd done it. But I would like to see his take on it, because there's a lot of ways you can kind of mess things up in that game.
He is a being of pure chaos. I love his videos.
Just to see exactly how much you can break games.
Yeah. But shit, I was thinking of saying enough. Oh, I abused it. Oh, right, yeah. So the combat in the game, right?
Mm.
Going back to Godhood, that's the word. It's kind of like you put your people on the field and then they do all the fight. It's kind of like TFT, where you don't actually have any direct influence over what they do. But there's two ways of winning. One is that you beat up all the opposite people, which is, as I'm going with war as my ideology, it's kind of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
The other way is that you can beat them through convincing the crowd that's watching that their god is not real.
Okay. Like a debate stage kind of deal.
Yeah, but because I've teched purely into combat, the enemy are kind of trying to do a mix. They're like, punching me one turn and then like singing at me the next. And I've just got like these like scimitars and I'm just cutting them down. I feel like a horrible person. But God damn it works.
There's a... Oh, God. Do you know the movie Thank You for Smoking?
No.
Sort of a dark comedy kind of movie. Came out in I want to say the early 2000s. Maybe even the late 90s, but at least early 2000s. So the whole idea behind the movie is the main character is this tobacco lobbyist. And it's just him talking about his job, which is to talk and to convince people. And there's a scene in the movie where he's talking to his son. He's on a business trip out to California to talk to like movie executives to try and get cigarettes back in movies. Which, interestingly enough, at the time that this movie came out, that was the big thing. You couldn't have smoking in any movies. They were talking about like airbrushing out cigarettes from classic movies and stuff like that. Yeah. Now you see smoking in movies and TV shows all the time. Like I feel like, I feel like every single TV show or movie that I see now, there's like 5 or 6 different people smoking and drinking in every scene.
Oh, I don't see that anymore. I've never really noticed it in the last 5 or so years, because
maybe it's just
I think what they tend to do is they'll have their whole hand covering the cigarette or something to get around it.
See that? No, that's not what I see. So maybe it's more obvious to me, because when I was growing up, like you couldn't have people drinking or smoking in TV shows just in case the little chillins saw it.
Yeah.
But now I feel like every TV, maybe I'm just watching a different kind of TV show, but like I feel like the Netflix series I watch, a lot of the Amazon series I watch, you see people like just smoking and drinking like it's nothing on TV. They don't, like, I feel like if you had in the 90s, the late 90s, if you had somebody smoking in a TV show, they had to be dying in the next scene, or they had to be the villain or something like that.
Right.
And that's actually a joke they make in the show, or in the movie Thank You for Smoking. The Hollywood executive is like, so you're trying to get cigarettes out of the hands of or into the hands of someone other than our usual Ravs. And he's like, Ravs? And he's like, Russians, Arabs, and villains. and I was like, but that perfectly describes like the type of people that would be smoking in a TV show or a movie in the 90s.
Yeah.
But now it's not. I feel like it's a lot more common in just random, normal people. Anyway, I'm getting a little bit off topic, but so he's trying to do that.
What was the topic?
The topic was this. You were talking about the debate in that game, Godhood, and I was talking about a scene. It reminded me of a scene from this movie, Thank You for Smoking.
Gotcha. And
as I was talking about the movie, I realized that a lot of the themes of the movie seem to have come true. Because, again, the business trip this guy was going to California for with his son in the movie was to talk to a Hollywood exec to try and get cigarettes back in mainstream TV and movies.
Okay, yeah.
Anyway, so he's having this little chat with his son, and the son is trying to figure out like what exactly his dad does for a living, and the dad's trying to explain it to him, and he's giving him a very simplistic explanation of like how debating works. And this he's like, okay, let's say we're debating about ice cream. You know, I like chocolate, you like vanilla, and you know, what's your argument? And the son says, you know, I like vanilla. It's the most delicious flavor ever. It's, you know, it's the only thing I ever need. And the other guy says, you know, I like chocolate too and whatnot. And he's like, but that debate doesn't go anywhere. So what I do then is I go like, you know, I don't think vanilla is enough. You know, and for that matter, I need more than chocolate. I think we need to experience all of the flavors. And the son's like, yeah, but you still haven't convinced me, or something like that. And the dad's like, yeah, but I'm not after you. It doesn't matter what you think. It matters what they think. And he points to like all the people just, you know, walking around in the plaza where they're at. And it was a really good point about debating. Like, you're not trying to convince the person you're debating. Who cares what they think? The target is the audience, the people around you, the people who are watching the debate and listening to it. Those are the people you're trying to get. Because you're never going to convince the other guy. They're already set in their beliefs. Otherwise, you wouldn't be having a debate.
Otherwise, the presidential debate would be a lot more simple. They'd be
That's
like, Trump's like, oh, maybe I'm not the best president. Oh, never mind. You have it.
Yeah, exactly. No one wants to watch a debate between two people who admit their own faults and try to see the other person's point of view.
Yeah.
It's sad, but it's just not something that people are going to pay attention to. And that's kind of what you're talking about in that game, where you're essentially having this religious debate where, well, you're having the debate using weapons, but you're after convincing the crowd, and it doesn't matter what the opponents, you know, think at the end of it. It's whether or not all the people around them agree or disagree.
Or whether they fear me enough.
that got more serious than maybe we intended, but
maybe. What's even worse is that I called so you have to name yourself, your religion, and your followers. Mm-hmm. So I named my god the Bear.
Oh boy.
I named my religion. Sound like the Blooners?
The Bluists?
The Blooners, I think.
Okay.
I can't remember. And I named my followers the Cubs. I thought, oh, that's kind of a cute name. And it's like, the Cubs have eaten their enemies. Like, that's so fucked up.
It ends up being so much more brutal.
It is. When you were talking about that earlier, though, you haven't seen a film called Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, have you?
No, that sounds really familiar, though.
I need to make you watch that because it's... In fact, I might make that, instead of watching Moana, we might watch that.
Yeah, whose turn is it? Isn't it Alicia's turn?
I think it was Alicia's choice to watch Moana, but given the circumstances, I don't know. I might just sneak this one in.
Move it over to your turn. I mean, I'm fine with that. I was super busy this week, so I didn't have a chance to join you guys for movie night. I'm fine.
Well, yeah, we also watched like so early in the morning, but there was extenuating circumstances that you don't know about, which is why we watched it. And yeah, but no, Moana we watched. We've both seen it before, so it was super chill. It surprised me how short it actually was. I felt like when I originally watched it, it went for longer. But it was like 1 hour 48 minutes, I think.
You know, I think we said something similar when we watched Princess and the Frog. It seemed like it was condensed.
Yeah, but no, it's just the music in it is great. I'm not a massive fan of the story. The story's kind of just like an afterthought. But you do get real emotional. Or at least I did. I got emotional before she left home. Which is a real sign that it's going to be a journey. Yeah, I don't know. Also, it's very pretty. It's a very pretty film.
I think I have never seen the movie, as I've said before, but because you like the movie so much, I've seen several clips and the musical numbers from the movies quite a few times because you've sent them to me. The one I remember the best is probably the "You're Welcome" segment.
You're welcome. Yeah, with The Rock.
Yeah.
Dwayne
The Rock Johnson. Didn't even know the guy could sing.
No, well, I mean, it's probably auto-tuned, but I don't know.
Yeah,
he can do everything, though. Like,
I mean,
shit.
the guy started off as a football player, then he became a professional wrestler, then he became an actor, and now he's doing, like, voice acting. Like, he's in video games, too, I'm pretty sure.
I wouldn't be surprised.
But
I'm surprised he hasn't done a Terminator and become, like, the president or something.
The Governor.
That was like the governor.
Yeah, I became the governor of California. Arnold Schwarzenegger, the guy that became governor by calling his opponent a girly man. That was hilarious.
All politicians do in one manner or another.
Yeah, but he didn't do it through metaphor or anything. Just, my opponent is a girly man. He's going to let California sink into the ocean. I love California.
I remember the point in my childhood where I worked out that politicians were actually just big children. I was on my way to like a karate lesson or something, and we went past this big billboard of one politician who was running for prime minister saying, "My opponent just let 500 prisoners out for no reason." I was like, what? I'm sure there's more context than someone's just releasing prisoners onto the streets, and B, how fucking childish.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know but that is politics. You can't. There is no nuance. If you indulge in nuance, then people are going to, like, your opponent's going to pounce on you because they're not going to care about nuance. Like, this guy's trying to see my point of view. See, even my opponent thinks I'm sympathetic, and then they'll try to pull more votes that way. It's just, I don't know. Maybe it's I don't know if it's different over there, because you guys do have multiple parties, but you really only have two big ones, don't you? Like the Tories and the Labour.
Yeah, those are the biggest ones. Conservative and Labour are the big ones.
Yeah, and Conservatives that's what I mean. The Tories are conservative.
Right. Yeah. Sorry, I'm getting confused now because we're talking about so much American politics. The Democrats. Is that right?
Well, in the U.S., the Democrats are the...
no, it's not Democrats. The fucking Yellow Party. Hang on.
I know you guys have the Green Party too, but they actually have some sway over there.
The Green Party have no say in anything.
I mean, they don't in the U.S. either.
Everyone's like, "Oh, we would really love to vote Green Party in," and then don't vote Green Party.
There are technically 4 political parties in the U.S. that actually have any sort of clout, but it's a huge gap because you have Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, and Green. And Libertarian and Green parties never get any portion of the vote, which also, I find it hilarious, the idea of a libertarian party. The whole idea of libertarianism is that, you hate the idea of, like, any kind of organized government. Well, that's maybe a little bit reductive, but it's...
Here we go, so...
All right, let's hear it.
Sorry, go on.
No, I'm just saying, let's hear it. You're pulling up the parties.
Right? So the main party at the moment is the Conservatives.
Yep.
Then it's Labour.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's the SNP, or Scottish Nationalist Party. Not nationalist, national.
Yeah, no. The Scottish Nationalist Party.
And then it's the Liberal Democrats, which was what I was trying to remember.
Yes.
Well, I thought the Liberal Democrats had more sway, but I guess not.
Yeah, I guess... Where was I thinking of? There's a lot... Because that's something that...
Sorry.
People have a hard time, like, understanding, like, cross-national political systems. Because the one thing that took me a long time to, like, wrap my head around was parties that won minorities of votes and then were able... Like, they quote-unquote worked with another party to form a government. And I'm like, you already have a government. What the fuck does that mean? It was the whole idea that, I don't know, Europe. I don't want to sit here like trying to explain European political systems that I barely understand.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I have a better idea of the American political system than my own country.
I mean, ours is fairly simple, at least on the federal level. Like, it's fairly simple because it was designed based on the old Roman system, which was fairly simple because it was designed 2,000 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, someone's always going to be unhappy with the system if their team loses because of a particular way that the votes are counted.
Yeah. I mean, the perfect example is the last two elections. The one that happened in 2016, people were bitching and complaining because it's like
the popular vote.
Because of the popular vote, which is meaningless, and the electoral vote. But again, they were like, oh, there's corruption, there's all these problems, we're being influenced by foreign powers and everything, and oh, it's so horrible. And then now, this time, their guy won. And so they're like, nope, it's all perfect. This system works perfectly. There's nothing wrong with it. There's no possibility of corruption. There's absolutely no reason to suspect foreign interference. It's all perfectly good and fine. Yeah. It's like, will you just shut the fuck up? Like, you don't get to like bitch like crazy that everything is broken and everyone's cheating when you lose. And then when you win, you're like, nope, everything's good, perfectly fine. I'm happy.
Yeah, you can't have your cake and eat it, as they say.
Yeah, exactly. Just acknowledge that there are flaws in the system, and despite the flaws in the system, everyone is playing by the same rules. So, yeah, just, I don't know. I don't want to get into politics again, but people need to chill. No. People need to chill. That's I think the takeaway. Just calm down.
People do need to chill, especially in this time of...
Bless you.
Bless me. Sorry. Hopefully you muted that out during the audio.
Well, yeah, we'll find out.
So that's a no because you don't look it through these things. Hopefully, what was I fucking saying?
You said something like during these times, and then you sneezed.
Oh yeah, during these times of like everyone being locked down, all the emotions are more charged and people are getting more bothered about littler, smaller things. I don't know. It's an interesting social study, this whole being in lockdown thing.
Yeah.
But next week, at least in England, it's all gonna drop for the month for December.
What, the actual, like, lockdown?
Yep, and so they've already pre-booked the lockdown to resume in January because obviously shit's going to get fucky as everyone spreads everything to everyone.
Yeah. Well, it's not only that, you're going into, December, a much colder, darker time of the year. People are going to be getting even less vitamin D, which is an essential vitamin when you're talking about immune systems.
Yeah, it's going to be cold, so people are going to have more things to worry about.
Yeah.
God, I hate winter.
I honestly like it. My two favorite seasons... Well, my two favorite seasons are fall and spring. I don't like summer because it's too damn hot. I don't like winter because it's too damn cold. But I prefer being cold over being hot, because if I'm cold, I just put a coat on. If I'm hot, I can only get so naked.
You are the proverbial mummy bear.
What?
From Goldilocks? You don't like your porridge too hot or too cold.
Oh, okay.
You like it just right.
Got it. Yep. Sorry. I wasn't getting the reference.
I wasn't talking about gay men.
Yes, that's where I thought you were going with it. I was like, what?
Oh, I don't know. Jesus. I assume Goldilocks is the thing over
there. Yeah. Goldilocks and the Three Bears.
Okay.
Yeah, my porridge is too hot. My porridge is too cold. My porridge is just right.
Goldilocks and the Three Gay Men. That's a porn parody if ever I've seen it. Anyway.
Jesus. That's a... This is why we need to plan things for the third segment. Otherwise, it just ends up being a shit show.
It's fine.
Can we think of something? Can we think of something a little less depressing to end things off with? Because we are coming up near the end of the podcast.
Always porn depressing.
Because we were talking about it in the context of being locked inside.
This is true. Well, yeah, what's going up in the next week? There was the Cowboy Bebop thing that I sent you a message about.
Yeah, Netflix is doing a live-action Cowboy Bebop. That's either going to be amazing or complete shit.
Totally dreadful, I'm sure. It's not actually come out yet. I did have a quick look at it.
So
they've got the title screen up, but that's it.
Netflix has kind of a hit or miss record. Their original series end up being absolute ass or pretty good. Like, for instance, they did a live-action adaptation of Death Note. It was horrendous. It was absolutely horrendous. But then...
It wasn't as bad as Bleach, though.
Yeah, that one was at least funny.
No, it wasn't. It was not.
I don't know.
I found the Death Note one quite funny because their interpretation of British accents and British ways of just being was hilarious.
Okay, so... But... Point being, Death Note, we can agree is an example. Same thing, Bleach. Yeah, the live-action adaptations, examples of being pretty shit. But they also did... they did the Witcher series adaptation.
That's true. Very good.
There was some stuff in it that I didn't like, because I've read all the Witcher books, I've played all the games. There were some weird choices that I can see why they made them for a TV adaptation, but I think that they actually, if they had kept it truer to the original characters, it would have been better.
But people who've seen the original lore were never going to super love the film. It's like any series.
I don't know, because I don't know. I'm trying to think of an example of a book adaptation that was done really well, and I can't.
I can't either.
But
Lord of the Rings.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, but you see, I read the books after the fact, so I'm not positive.
Okay.
But I do have friends that enjoyed the movies and the books, but I think that's a good example because they did try to stay as true to the books as possible.
Not including The Hobbit, by the way.
Yeah, the Hobbit. What they did was they took one book and stretched it out into 3 long movies just to have a trilogy. That was a mistake. Because the Hobbit book was pretty good, and I feel like some bits of the Hobbit movie were good, but they stretched it. But no, Witcher.
Specifically the last, 10% of the book they stretched into 2 films.
Speaking of, but still on the subject of Netflix adaptations, I think The Witcher is one of the things that gives me hope. They've also done quite a few, good TV shows. And good, original movies. But they've also done a bunch of really bad TV shows and original movies. So, it's a coin flip with Netflix. You're never going to get something mediocre. You're either going to get something great or something utter trash.
Yeah. I think we can all agree that what we really need is a live-action film of Hatoful Boyfriend.
For those that don't know, that is a parody visual novel about it's a parody of the slice of life trope from anime, where it's just people in high school having day-to-day drama, except all of the people in the high school are pigeons or other birds, and except for one character who's a human who got transferred to this all pigeon school. It's I don't know, it's a kind of weird parody that you only get with that sort of genre.
If there was a live action of that would be so funny.
They'd have to train a bunch of pigeons.
So funny. Yeah, it would just be a person standing in a room full of birds, and the birds would have comical voices coming out of them.
Oh my god. I won't lie, I would actually really love to see that. I'd like to see how they could actually possibly pull the fucking thing off.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Oh,
anyway.
All right. Yeah, we're at the end. I'm glad that we did, I think, find a positive note to end things on, because we did get a little dark there near the end. And we started serious, so I wanted to end happy.
Yeah.
Anyway, I won't ask for final thoughts, because I think we both just gave one there. Yeah, this is the end of episode 17 of the TMCJ podcast. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and I hope that you'll come back and tune into us again next week.
Have a great week.